Welcome to another lecture by MedicoMedics, Learning Made Easy, Microbiology and Infectious Diseases, Chapter 7, Immunology Basics, How the Body Defends Itself. So in this lecture, we will present the immune system, talk about innate immunity, adaptive, antibodies and their roles, vaccines. We will talk about inflammation and the immune response, immunology in everyday life, recap, and then end with a summary. So, introduction to the immune system. Now, the immune system is the body's defense system against harmful microorganisms or cancer, toxins, etc. Its key roles include recognizing harmful invaders, attacking and neutralizing these invaders, and furthermore, to remember past infections for faster future responses. So the immune system is a highly trained security team that guards our body. It looks for threats, it neutralizes them, but it also keeps a record of it so it can respond even faster if the same threat shows up again. Now, briefly, some components of the immune system. So organs and tissues that are important. We have the bone marrow. This is where blood cells are produced, including our immune cells. We have the thymus. This is where T cells maturate. We then have lymph nodes and our spleen. These are involved in filtering harmful substances and activating immune responses. Cells here include white blood cells. These are the soldiers of the immune system. And the types of these cells include lymphocytes, so our T cells and B cells. Also our macrophages and our neutrophils. Now let's begin with innate immunity. And before we move on, this is a course in microbiology, and of course, immunology is a part of it. However, we have a dedicated course on immunology that we recommend you taking a look at some point to go into details of all of this. But let's carry on. So our innate immunity, we have physical barriers. That includes, first of all, our skin. This is a first line of defense against the entry of pathogens. So things that want to come in and cause damage, our skin repels or protects us against. We also have mucous membrane that trap microbes in the respiratory tract and in our digestive tracts. So these are some physical barriers. Then we have chemical barriers like our stomach acid. We have enzymes in our saliva and our tears. These also help break down and repel pathogens. But then we have cellular defenses. These include phagocytes like macrophages that engulf and destroy invaders. We also have natural killer cells that target infected or cancerous cells. So the innate immunity, as suggested by the name innate, you're born with it, is like the body's first responders. So the skin and mucus are barriers, while specialized cells, like in our cellular defenses, act like firefighters. So they go to the site of an infection to eliminate invaders quickly. Now, the second type is adaptive immunity. And the name is very suggestive because it's adaptive. So it adapts to something. It learns, let's say. And this is our second line of defense. Key features here includes specificity. It targets specific pathogens. In comparison to our innate immunity, where our immune cells are up and about, they notice a pathogen, and then they may get activated to engulf and destroy it. But they are not specifically targeting anything, compared to our adaptive immune system, where these cells target specific pathogens. Another key feature is memory. These cells remember pathogens for a faster response in the future. And we will talk about how that happens. And the main players in our adaptive immune system are B cells that produce antibodies to neutralize invaders. And we have T cells. These kill infected cells and coordinate immune responses. So our adaptive immunity is like a personalized defense system. It learns from experience. It remembers past threats. And then it develops very precise weapons to fight off specific invaders. And these precise weapons that are developed are called antibodies. So how the immune system works together. Let's look at a step-by-step process. First, we have recognition. Immune cells identify the invader using different receptors. That then leads to activation, so signals trigger a response. Inflammation, which is where the recruitment of immune cells occur. Then we have the attack, so pathogens are neutralized by, for example, phagocytosis from our macrophages or antibodies from our B cells, or through direct killing. Then we have resolution. So we've gone from recognition, activation, attack, resolution. Immune responses wind down, preventing damage to the body. Because as you may understand, when there are these reactions that are in a way positive, right? We are fighting off something that's not supposed to be in our body. But this process itself, the process of inflammation, can become very dangerous if it's out of control. Now, antibodies and their roles. So we mentioned that our B cells produce these proteins that bind to specific antigens. Specific antigens means markers on the pathogens. So this pathogen here has something, right? It has a specific antigen on it. And these B cells that have been produced with these antibodies are built to bind specifically to this and destroy this cell. Now, functions then. Neutralizing toxins and viruses. So essentially this. Mark pathogens for destruction by other immune cells. So this cell, let's say we have another cell here that finds this one, signals it, puts something on it, and says, okay, now a signal will be transmitted. So another cell here, it catches this signal and moves to destroy it. What about vaccines then? So how do vaccines work? Well, we introduce harmless parts of pathogens. Now that we just mentioned how the immune system on a very fundamental level works. We have memory cells where we produce antibodies. These then recognize future threats when the same thing is presenting to attack it. With this knowledge that we have these memory cells, what do we do then in relationship to vaccines? Well, we manipulate the system by introducing harmless parts of this pathogen, of these antigens that are expressed on the pathogens, and we introduce it to our body so that our immune system recognizes it and starts producing antibodies to it. But it's important to understand harmless is key here. So we introduce enough of this pathogen to trigger our immune response to start producing these antibodies for future use, but not enough to produce actual pathology. So the purpose, to generate memory cells for faster future responses. And when we talk about vaccines, we have live vaccines where we use a weakened virus, for example, in the MMR vaccine, which stands for measles, mumps, and rubella. We have inactivated vaccines, where we use killed virus, like in polio. We have mRNA vaccines, like COVID-19 vaccines. So vaccines are like practice drills for your immune system. They show your body what a pathogen looks like, so it's ready to fight it when the real one shows up, so to speak. Now let's briefly talk about disorders of the immune system. Here is an example of an overactive immune response, like in allergies. This is when our immune system is reacting to harmless substances, like pollen. So something that's actually not a pathogen that needs to be destroyed. It is harmless if it enters our body. Nevertheless, for some reason, our immune system is recognizing it as a threat. So we have an immune response and the increase of inflammation and whatever symptoms then follow. Now imagine you have a huge influx of this harmless substance. You will have a strong immune response, meaning a strong allergic reaction that is not necessarily justified, other than that your immune system has wrongly decided to target this thing. But nonetheless, from a medical standpoint, we still have to treat it, because this immune response, this inflammation, could actually lead to fatal consequences. Like, for example, whatever this allergen is that is not dangerous leads to fluid buildup or constriction or vasodilation in your whatever, let's say in your respiratory tract, like asthma, right? And you get these constrictions and you can't get enough air in. We have something called anaphylaxis, anaphylactic shock. You cannot breathe, so you could die. So we have treatments for these allergies, like using antihistamines, etc., etc. So this is just an example of our immune system overworking itself and not necessarily related to an actual opportunistic pathogen. Similarly, we actually have a subject where we study autoimmune diseases. And this is where the body is attacking its own cells, like rheumatoid arthritis. So similarly here, that this pollen is not dangerous, but our immune system is attacking it, and it's the response that is actually destroying or causing harm. The same way, we have, for whatever reason, our cells have been taught to attack this cell right here. And this cell might be our fluid in our joints. And it's actually there for protective reasons. We want this synovial joint fluid to be there because it facilitates less friction between your joints, right? You have a bone here and you have a bone here. And then you have this fluid here that helps these two from hitting each other. But for some reason, your immune system has developed autoimmunity, and whatever these fluids are built out of, or whatever they consist of, those cells have become the target of our immune system. So it will over time destroy this fluid. And then patients will present with, for example, rheumatoid arthritis. Now, autoimmune diseases are many, and we cover them in immunology and in other lecture series. But this is another prime example of how our immune system is dysfunctional. We can also have the opposite. So we talked about overactive immune response. We can have a weakened immune response. We call it immunodeficiency, like having HIV. So the idea here is HIV as a virus enters into its host cells and it targets specifically. We're not going into detail and you don't need to memorize this, just an idea. We talked about T cells and we talked about B cells. which make up the main parts of our adaptive immune system. Now, these T cells, you will learn, is mainly divided into what we call CD4 and CD8 T cells. And these T cells, the CD4 type, are the prime target of this HIV virus. So it connects to it and destroys them. And these CD4 cells are vital in the coordination of our immune system. So over time, what happens in HIV is that these CD4 cells go down. The count goes down. And over time, when we say the patient has developed AIDS, is that otherwise non-dangerous, let's say, otherwise non-dangerous pathogens that our immune system normally is able to control and repel, because of the loss of these immune cells, over time, this ability to repel goes down. And as it goes down, the amount of opportunistic pathogens, so pathogens that could actually then cause damage, increase. And this becomes overwhelming and could eventually even lead to death. Now, inflammation and the immune response. So the body's response to injury or infection is inflammation, and it is marked by redness, swelling, heat, and pain. And the idea or the purpose of inflammation is to contain and eliminate the threat and to promote healing. But you can have chronic inflammation, where you have a long-term inflammation that keeps going on, like an arthritis. And what may be a good thing to start with, inflammation is a positive thing, with the purpose of eliminating the threat, containing it, and promote healing. But if it continues over time, this causes tension, stress, and over time actually leads to damaging consequences rather than healing ones. So, for example, think of it like this. Inflammation is like a fire alarm, right? You have a fire alarm in your house. You want that thing to start beeping when there is a fire. So it's alerting the body that there is a problem, and it sends help to put this fire out. But pretend the alarm just keeps going. What would happen if it just constantly keeps going? What would happen to your daily life? Would it not be disrupted? Would you not go crazy? Would you not feel like you need to jump? So the idea is similar here. Prolonged something of a good thing could actually turn very bad. It's both philosophically interesting, but it's also physiologically quite interesting. And it develops a whole different side to medicine, where we need to prepare not only for developing something to resolve a problem, but potentially developing something to resolve the consequences or potential consequences of that something that is solving a problem. And the thing goes on and on. Moving on then to the immune system in cancer. So immune cells, indeed, detect and destroy abnormal cells. Tumors develop ways to hide from our immune system. This is why cancer is one reason why cancer is so tricky, because we do have immune cells developing. We have the presence of different immune cells ready to destroy these abnormal cells that are a consequence of uncontrolled cell division, so cancer. But the problem is tumors develop different ways to hide from this. So it maintains its division, and our immune system is just looking at it without actually having any reaction to it. So what we try to do is we try to use immunotherapy, or we use essentially the immune system to fight off the cancer. So we find ways to trigger our immune system to accelerate its response and to attack these abnormal cells. So it tries to find ways to hide and evade us, we try to find ways to essentially identify it still. So staying one step ahead is part of what research is doing. So in summary then, the immune system protects against infections, cancer, and toxins. It has two main layers, or parts. We have the innate immune system, our general defense, that is non-specific. And we have the adaptive immune system, which is specific. We use vaccines, antibodies, and therapies, and all of these rely on understanding how the immune system works. And that's the end of this lecture. Thank you for listening. Continue now to Chapter 8.